My name is Carson Seelman, and this is On Air with Heritage Action, a podcast built for conservatives. Twice a week, we break down some of the most important issues facing our country and talk about how you can get involved today in the fight for conservative values. Welcome back to a special episode of On Air with Heritage Action. Today we're joined by RJ Gibson. He's the manager of Senate Relations here at Heritage Action, and he's going to talk to us about the NDAA, a huge bill going through Congress right now. So RJ, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And can you explain a little bit about what the NDAA is, how often it comes up, kind of the process of how it all happens?
Yeah. So the NDAA stands for the National Defense Authorization Act. So this is the big bill that comes through Congress every year that sets the defense posture for the United States. So it sets funding levels and makes other policy recommendations, or not recommendations, laws on how we are going to defend ourselves as a nation. And so it's actually passed every year for 61 years in a row. And it passes. It's an annual bill. So this is one of the last remaining things that Congress does on a bipartisan basis, and functions how it's supposed to. So it usually goes through both the House and the Senate, and then they'll meet and hash out their differences in a conference process. So that's kind of where we are right now.
Okay, so we're in the conference right now. So do they have like representatives from the House and the Senate kind of come together? Like, how do they all bring different amendments? Like, how does that work?
Normally, that's how the process works. But this year, they're in kind of an informal conference where the heads of the relevant committees just meet and kind of hash out the details. And so that's what they're doing right now. So when the bill comes to the floor, the conference version of the bill, there will be opportunities for amendments and changes as well. But most of those changes are happening right now kind of behind closed doors, which is, even though the process still kind of works for NDAA, it's not what we'd like to see.
Right. We obviously always prefer more transparency in the government. Yeah. That should be kind of basic, but of course it doesn't always happen like that. One of the main provisions that we're seeing come out that is not bipartisan or not conservative at all is Draft Our Daughters. Can you explain kind of what Draft Our Daughters is and who's pushing for it?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I would start the bill, both the House and Senate versions are actually pretty good. They're a lot better than last year's versions. Last year's House bill had a lot of kind of woke ideology pushing on the military, whereas this year a lot of that fell out, which is good. But one big problem that we have as conservatives that's in the Senate version but not the House version is this provision that you referred to, known as Draft Our Daughters. So we have in the United States the selective service where young men register for essentially they become part of a database so that if we do need a draft, which Congress would authorize, they could be called up to serve. So this provision would require that young women also have to register as well for that selective service process, and then would be eligible to be drafted. So it's actually a bipartisan thing. There's some weird people who agree with this, and some kind of more feminist groups on the left that actually agree with us on this. So there's some strange bedfellows here, but we don't think that it's right to use the military as kind of a social engineering project to push for kind of woke thoughts on equality, and so we are opposed to this,
right,
on those grounds.
Right, and it always drives me nuts when the left does this. They try to paint an issue like this as equality, or they like to say equity, and all this other nonsense that comes out of their mouth. But really, this is about conscripting America's young women, daughters, granddaughters, sisters, you name it. They're just trying to turn this military that we have into a woke military, which is not even, it's not good for America's young women, but it's also not good for our military readiness.
Yeah. So, in an ideal world, a lot of folks at the Heritage Foundation have written about this. We would actually get rid of the draft in general. So that's one reason we're opposed to this is why expand something that we should be, getting rid of? Because, like you said, it actually damages readiness. Instead of focusing on training and preparing a volunteer force that is going to be more effective, we spend resources, to develop this selective service database, and then potentially to draft soldiers. That harms our readiness, and so it's really just it's not a good policy idea on the merits, even that people would argue it for.
Right. And this is not, this is not helping the military. It's not even to say that women haven't made humongous differences in our military.
Yeah.
They have contributed in all sorts of ways in every single branch, but they've done it voluntarily.
Exactly.
They shouldn't be forced to go to war. And like you said, it's not helping readiness. The draft itself doesn't help readiness. But this is just the broader trend for the left. They want to do everything they can to turn the military into this woke organization. They want to push CRT. They want to push this gender affirming trans ideology in the military. And it's just completely, not helping our national security, not helping our missions abroad. And it's just completely ridiculous in my mind that this should even be on the table. But you've talked to a couple of people who are fighting back against this. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about those members and what they're doing?
Mm-hmm. Fortunately, there are some folks that are fighting against this. So Senator Josh Hawley is definitely a champion on this issue. He has introduced an amendment to the bill to strip out the draft our daughters provision. And he is joined by 8 other true conservative Republican senators, including Mike Lee, Tom Cotton, and some others, as co-sponsors on that amendment. And so the goal is to get this, ultimately pulled out of the final bill. And I feel like we have a very good opportunity to, because we were able to last year, even though last year the bill, the provision was in both the House and Senate bills, and it still fell out. This year it's just in the Senate bill. And so you have to like our chances, but those members that are fighting on this are going to need support, and they're going to need, folks calling in and letting them know that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, this is a huge deal. This is conscription of America's young women. So, how can everybody watching at home or listening? How can they fight back? Should they be calling their senators, or what to do right now in the process?
Yeah, making sure that your members know your position on this, that you think that the Hawley Amendment should be adopted, or that the provision should just simply fall out of the bill in conference. Either way, that's a win for us, and avoids the policy being enacted.
Yeah, and I think this is something that a lot of our, not so loyal conservative members and a lot of those on the left think that will just kind of go unnoticed, because the NDAA is kind of a complicated process with the House, the Senate, the conference, amendments. It's hard to follow. And so I think that they like to negotiate behind closed doors, like you were talking about, and they like to kind of sneak stuff in. So this is something that's huge, and we need to make sure that they know we're paying attention.
You're absolutely right. It's such a big bill that it is a good vehicle for members to try to sneak stuff through. And so, we'll be watching for, to make sure that other bad things aren't attached kind of late in the game in the amendment process. But in terms of this one, I don't think they're going to be able to sneak it through, because I think we have a lot of eyes on it.
Right.
And that's going to be something that we continue to highlight. So.
Yeah, and I just think it's so awful, too, that the left and even some, so-called Republicans, not really conservative, but a lot of these folks are using such an important bill. This is about our military readiness. This is about national security. This is one of the most important duties of Congress, and they're kind of using this as a political tool in a lot of ways, and as a way to push their culture war. So I think it's really important that everybody stays updated with what's going on. You can follow us on all of our social media. We'll keep you posted on the progress of the bill, other ways you can fight back, but make sure that you're talking to, not only your senators. I know that's like kind of the main part of this right now, but keep talking to your House members too. Make sure that they know how you feel about this and where you stand on the issues, because, we need to tell our representatives that we're paying attention, we know what's going on, and we don't like what we're seeing. So, RJ, you'll have to come back and give us an update once we kind of move through this process a little bit more. But thanks for breaking everything down, and we'll keep everybody posted. But make sure you call your senators, call your representatives, stay engaged with the process, and we can hopefully defeat this draft our daughters provision.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great. Thanks for being here. That's it for another episode of On Air with Heritage Action. Thank you for tuning in. If you like what you heard in today's episode, please click the follow button. If you want to receive a text message each time a new episode airs, text podcast to 51776 and you'll never miss an episode. That's podcast to 51776. Hi, it's me again, and we need your help. If you like the insights and activist resources we are providing, please take 1 minute and help us spread the word. Share this episode with friends and family on social media, email, or text. We need everyone's help in the fight to hold Washington accountable. And don't forget, you are also able to subscribe and listen to episodes on your smartphone. Just open up your favorite podcast app and search for On Air with Heritage Action. Click subscribe and download episodes so that you can take them with you on the go. It's the best way to make sure you never miss a thing. Thanks.